What a wonderful passage. What a wonderful passage. Much warmth and affirmation in it, but also an underlying tension and anxiety and anguish. Let's see if we can unpack some of it. And I was greatly helped this time by reading the flavour of this passage in Tom Wright's commentary. I do recommend it for this particular piece. So we have this lovely young mum, young dad, and their new bundle of joy. And those of us that have held bundles of joy, be our own or our cousins, nephews, grandparents, whatever, we know they come with responsibilities and other things that have to be done, nappies and all the rest. And I want to start actually a verse back before we have come. We read in verse 21 that Jesus was taken to the temple, that Jesus was named Jesus as a result of the angel's message, and second, that the time came for him to be circumcised. And I want to just look at that just for a moment, because you'll see how it ties in with my theme a little later. Why is Jesus circumcised? Well, first of all, the family they really didn't have any choice. It was just so much part of the custom and tradition of the Jewish faith, going right back to the time of Abraham and the promise he received, that he would be circumcised. He would not have been able to do his ministry without being marked with the sign of the covenant, being known as a fully paid up Jew and a fully paid up male Jew. It was important, and that's why that happened. I'll explain why I've included that in a minute. The time came for Mary's purification. And again, we are seeing devout Jewish parents doing devout Jewish things. The Lord said to Moses, "Say to the Israelites, a woman who becomes pregnant and gives birth to a son will be ceremonially unclean. Then the woman must wait a further 33 days, that's after the presentation, to be purified." And so that's why they are coming to the temple now, following the demands of Leviticus 12. And secondly, they are bringing Jesus to be presented. They're bringing Jesus to be presented. In Exodus 13:2, we read, the Lord tells Moses, "Consecrate to me every firstborn male. The first offspring of every womb among the Israelites belong to me, whether human or animal." This still happens in some more evangelical congregations where adult baptism is the norm. What can we do for a newborn baby? We have to do something. I went to a service of dedication for my grandson a few years ago, and I'm looking forward to one for my newborn grandchildren, twins, which I hope will be fairly soon. It's a way to give thanks. In the past, of course, it was tied up with the purification and was a way of the parents giving thanks that the mother had survived childbirth. My great aunt died in childbirth, and many people did many years ago. It's giving thanks for a gift, a wonderful gift from God. And it's dedicating both the family to God and the community to supporting and enabling that family to grow up in their tradition. The help of God and the help of the community. So, the reason for including that first extra verse was to point out that this is a devout Jewish family doing everything that you do as a Jewish father and mother with a newborn baby son. We see that they are people who are both, like Simeon, they are both devout and righteous. Righteous, they know what to do and they know how to do it. Devout, they actually do it. They actually do it. If we went on another verse at the other end of this reading, we would read that every year they took Jesus up to Jerusalem. Every year from Nazareth, a long journey in those days. Not an hour in the car with a little bit of noise, but a pair of headphones to listen to. But they did that, and it was 12 years later we heard of the time that it went wrong and Jesus got left behind. So, this family, a holy family. Now, my wife, as you know, is a Catholic. I would normally be there the first Sunday in the month playing in the Mass this morning. And they have a special feeling about the Holy Family and also about Mary. And generally speaking, the Protestant tradition has sort of rejected this. And if you'll excuse the use of an appropriate metaphor, we perhaps have thrown the baby out with the bathwater. It was a holy family, certainly. And there are many holy families here this morning. You are. All of you, whether you're grandparents, nieces, nephews, uncles, aunts, you're part of families. And because you're here, you're part of holy families. Mary and Joseph were that. Parents who followed their faith, who brought their child up to believe and understand and know the scriptures on which it was based and practice it in a way that made sense. Not a bad start for the young Jesus, was it? Not a bad start. And then we come to these two lovely people, Anna and Simeon. We've emphasized that they were older people. We've seen that they were devout and righteous people. And indeed, Anna was a full-time servant in the temple. But first, a quick story. When I was about 12, we had a lovely American priest come to our parish for a couple of years. His name was Tom Akeley. He had a great sense of humour, and he supported me a great deal. He took me out to places my parents couldn't afford to take me, all very above board, I must say, absolutely. And he introduced me to music and particularly to reading the Bible better. And he led a group of young people. We called ourselves the Young Active Christians. One day, after he'd had Sunday lunch with us, he took my father on one side and he said, "You've got a son who's brighter than you. What are you going to do about it? How are you going to bring him up?" This challenge really made my dad think. He told me about it many years later. How should he support me? How would I get the opportunities to make the most of myself, and indeed the opportunities of my sister? One of the ways that Dad responded to this was to make sure that I didn't get too big for my boots and kept those boots on the ground. I'll leave you to judge whether he was successful. Tom's intervention worked over a long period of time, long after Tom had left. And just by the way, I wasn't brighter than Dad, just better reared. So, our next point is that Anna and Simeon must have had a huge influence. How do we know? Well, Mary clearly remembers it. Again, this passage is bracketed by two verses. I think it's 19 and 51 or 52. Mary kept all these things in her heart. And how did Luke, the writer of this passage, get to hear about it? Well, I think it's quite likely it was either from Mary or somebody who knew Mary directly. So, Simeon, we know he was righteous. He followed the law, knew the Torah, and was devout. He put his heart into following it. Anna lived in the temple. She would have been very devout and well known. And what did they do? Their devotion enables them to hear the Holy Spirit and identify Jesus. Immediately, moved by the Spirit, we read. And we too need to be devout and righteous. In other words, following our scriptures, studying and living as best we can so that we too can hear the Spirit. They immediately see Jesus as the special one, the Messiah. Despite his lowly birth and upbringing, they will know he was lowly. They would have come dressed humbly, but also their offering. Those 2 doves we saw earlier were the substitute offering instead of the lamb that more well-off people would have brought. And what Simeon says, we just read this passage and we can miss the sheer impact of this. This baby is the salvation of the world. Wow. You're Mary and Joseph, and this is what you are told. He's God's gift to everyone. What? Everybody around me, everybody is going to be influenced by this child. Wow. And I'm a good Jewish mother, I'm a good Jewish father, and this baby will include the Gentiles. Wow. All of this in that wonderful Nunc Dimittis prayer that Kathy's just mentioned to us. And finally, he will glorify Israel as well, not just the Gentiles, but Israel as well. Wow, 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 wow. This child, this baby, is God's gift. And Simeon's gift to those parents is like Tom Akeley, only in spades, bringing up so clearly that this child is special and has to be brought up specially. No wonder that in the words of the message, Mary and Joseph are speechless with surprise. Speechless with surprise. We read they were marveling. But Simeon is also a prophet. I don't know whether this only really struck me when I was preparing this. To prophesy is to prepare people. We think of it as telling things as they were. We think of it as projecting forward as what things might be. But it's actually a way of preparing people, of helping people to understand what the future will be. And again, we have a number of things here. Jesus will divide people. He will divide people from those who are in and those who are out, for want of a better phrase. He will bring God's sign and will generate opposition. How do you think Mary felt when Jesus started his ministry and she remembered these words? Because he also went on to tell her alone, a sword will pierce your heart. She carried that prophecy with her around. I've spoken before about Mary, and I think we need to have a very realistic and a good understanding of the example that Mary gives us. A committed, brave Jewish mother and a follower and believer in Jesus. Only a few weeks ago, we read about her at the marriage of Cana and saying, do what Jesus tells you to do. Maybe Simeon's words, out of being moved by the Holy Spirit, prepared her to recognize this moment when it came and to be there at the foot of the cross. Mary at the foot of the cross. And Anna. Sadly, we do not have Anna's words. I'm sure they were equally moving and important. But she discerns who Jesus is. She knows he will redeem Jerusalem. That means the temple, that means the Jewish faith, that means everything. She recognizes that Jesus is God's gift. And what's more, it's a throwaway line, she tells others. Anna is almost the first missionary, the first disciple. She's out there preparing the people of God, the people in Jerusalem. I have seen this baby, and he will be God's chosen one. Two people doing such important things, influencing this young family and playing an important part in the development of Christ and when he comes to his ministry. And so, this loving family go on the 100-mile or so trip back to Nazareth, and as I've said, we note that they continue to live in proper Jewish righteousness and devotion. So, what do we take away from this story then? My daughter's first word was no. And it was a pretty good portent of what was to come. As she grew towards her teens, it was pretty clear that she wasn't going to accept the guidance of mum and dad. We prayed. We prayed for her and we prayed for her brother. Specifically, I prayed for significant adults to come into her life. I could speak for another hour. There was Jude, Peter, Audrey, Mike, another Mike, John, Edna, Ellis, Barbara, Harry, Sheila, Trevor, yet another Mike. And I'd written that list down and I was thinking about it last night and I woke up this morning, I thought, oh yes, there was Don and Carol as well. My lovely friend Don, who I've spoken about before. Just two examples. Ruth got a girly crush on Jude when she was about 14. And Jude went off to university. She was a Christian girl. She was a lovely girl. Played the organ. Ruth wrote to her at uni, like 14-year-olds do. And Jude wrote back every time. And she came round to see Ruth during the holidays. And Ruth, occasionally in her later year at uni, went over to Hull to see her. For Matthew, something happened. I was going to Romania with the guy who ran the Spurgeon's charity. They were going to set up playgrounds in Romania just after the wall came down. Something happened and I couldn't go. And Matt, my son, went in my place, literally at sort of like 6 hours' notice. John Smith, who was head of that, now lives in Somerset actually, took Matt to Romania via the jazz clubs of Vienna. When he came back, they used to go and drink Tetley's Bitter together. And then there was Ralph Ward, now a minister in Cornwall, who was a professional worship leader, taught my son how to lead worship at 15. I expect he's doing that this morning, 30 years later, in his own church. People of influence, people to lead. Never was a prayer, a fervent prayer, no more completely answered. People of influence. Takeaways from this passage then. Now, this comes with a health warning. The danger at this point is that you think, oh, I've got to do more, I've got to do more, I've got to do more. That's not the message I'm trying to give. I'm asking this question. Perhaps we can think about it, see the things we do in these categories, if you like, and think how we might do them as well as we can for our children. We can only do what we can. Do what you can and don't do what you can't. But we can all be modern Annas and Simeons, Marys and Josephs to our families and to our church family and to those around us. So how can we be more righteous? How can we understand our faith more so that we can live it out more fully? And if you're, I spoke to somebody before the service, if you are coming here with family and just thankful you've made it this morning, that's fine. You won't have time to do this, but maybe you can find... There was a famous case of a woman with a big family, and she cleared out underneath the stairs and had a chair put in there, and she would go in there and sit there for 10 minutes just to find somewhere where nobody could find her. Are we devout? Do we practice these things out? Do we do things? Do we share prayer? When something goes wrong, do you pray about it? When you're in the car, do you pray about it? Does it become part of your life to do those things? All those things that you can do, just to show that it's not something you do on Sunday, it's not something you read in books, but something that actually happens. As I say, but what you can, not what you can't. But perhaps we could all agree that praying my prayer for my son and my daughter, might be a good thing to do for all our community's children, to pray for adults of influence. Some of you are already doing that here. I see it every week. In Sunday school, talking to our people, informally, around the room, asking them how they are, what they are doing, and so on. Can we all be Annas and Simeons, Marys and Josephs? And so, to summarize, Jesus, the Jewish man raised by good, Jewish parents. Anna and Simeon, righteous and devout people, adults of influence. All of it pointing to the wow of Jesus, those 4 wows of who Jesus will be and what he will do. And being modern Simeons, Annas, Marys and Josephs. I'm going to finish just with a quote from that commentary by N.T. Wright. Mary and Joseph needed Simeon and Anna at that moment. The old man and the old woman needed them, had been waiting for them, and now thanked God for them. John the Baptist and Jesus were already beginning their work through this process of being children and being brought up and being spoken to and so on. Drawing people of all sorts into new relationship and fellowship with God. Anna and Simeon, people of influence to an important family. Messages for us all, because we are all part of his holy family here in this place now. Amen.